I'm back. Today I have something a little bit different than the videos I usually make. Today I'm going to be telling you the story of how I have been rebuilding my nervous system over the past 15 or so months. So buckle in, get a cup of tea. This is going to be quite a bit longer video than my normal videos. Um, Okay, so this is all the things that I've learned, where I started, what I did, and also how this nervous system rebuild fits in with the shamanic practices that I do. So, um, let's see. And I have a lot of pages of notes, y'all. So, if there's something that kind of perks your interest and you'd like me to do a longer video on it or a separate video on it, please let me know in the comments below and I'll make that for you. Um, all right, so I'm gonna talk about this is gonna be a vulnerable video, and I'm gonna talk about a lot of vulnerable things. So that includes abuse and neglect. And um I'm not going to go into super specific details about these things, but it will include things like death and trauma and other hard life experiences. Um, okay, so I'm also going to share with you uh, how I found out that I was on a chronically dysregulated nervous system. Like I was grounding on a chronically dysregulated system and what I did about it. And then how I know that I'm now in a mostly regulated system. So kind of that whole journey. I mentioned that. Okay, so this video is kind of part of my thesis for a 5-year program I'm in called the Cycle of Transformation. And I'm in the 5th year, which because of the pandemic and uh, because we killed the community and then rebuilt the community. Just like this has ended up taking like 8 years. So I've been immersed in these things, in these practices, and in these shamanic skills for over 8 years. Let's see. I'm going to discuss a little bit about the cycle skills that the cycle community and the last mass community uses, teaches, practices, and agrees to not just to manage trauma, but to actually transform and heal things like shadow selves, marginalized selves, dissociated selves, and that we do these skills not so that we can just like live a good life, but so that we can actually take that good life and bring it out and express it and be healed people. So it is a path of healing, but it's not just like the healing isn't just the point. We want to take it out and we want to actually affect change on the world and, you know, continue breaking down problematic structures of power over, for instance. Um, the shamanic work also includes shadow work and ancestral healing and soul retrieval, but that's not exactly the scope of this video. So, I mean, I can do other videos on it, but I won't really be mentioning those things, even though they are part of the work that we do. Um, okay, so how did I get here? how did I have the realization that I was um chronically dysregulated? I went through a devastating breakup with the love of my life. And we were together for about 5 years. We were best friends and we did everything together. And I thought that we had this relationship of legends. I was under the impression that that's what we were for each other. Um, and I didn't know this at the time we were together for those 5 years, but they leaned heavily dismissive avoidant, and I lean heavily fearful avoidant. After the breakup, I was in a flight response basically 100% of the time. I was like not not really functional um in my life and in the world for months, and I was so confused and so like what is happening? And so that necessity being the mother of all invention sparked me onto this journey. Um, our breakup at this point is unreconciled in some ways, and we don't really have the ability to like talk about things and repair and move into a friendship. Like that's kind of what I've done in other past relationships and am usually friends with my exes. And so that's another part of why this was so confusing. So I'd been trying to change things in that relationship, and I'd begun trying to talk about, I didn't know exactly what I was like what I was feeling, but I started feeling super lonely inside the relationship and needing things to change and bringing this up and then just getting met with being stonewalled and uh ignored essentially. So after months of doing this, I was like, I can't do this anymore. And I I have been broken up with, and I have broken up with people, and it's like breakups are so hard, and it mostly isn't because one person is this horrible monster and one person is this angel. Usually it's like something's happening that we're not able to work out. Um, but I never felt like so off my own base before. Um, and I had no language for what was happening. And I can now label that as we were both just practicing this really insecure attachment to each other. Let's see. Okay, so I was in total nervous system dysregulation. I couldn't get myself out of it. That looked like crying for months, pining, having a lot of regret about the decision that I made to end the relationship, even though it was like clearly not working. Like you can't, I don't, like, how do you have a relationship when you can't actually like talk about things? You kind of can't, it doesn't work. I mean, you could contort yourself around it, but it isn't really like it's not really a healthy way to be. Um, and so I started researching things like attachment theory and healing from trauma and owning this didn't really have anything to do with the relationship I was in, but owning my own CPTSD. And then kind of two things kind of happened like right next to each other. So we broke up. I went through the breakup in October. And then at Christmas, that Christmas, which was the first Christmas I was single in over a decade, which it just sort of happened to be work out that way. So I said yes to every single family function. Said yes to every family function, and that's not typically what I would do. I would usually like pick and choose pretty carefully which family functions I participated in. So the two things that happened were that I went on a ski trip with my family after the day after Christmas, and I several things happened. There were many beautiful things, and it was great to be with my family. And it's fun to hang out with family. And I watched my mom. I had several experiences that day where I watched my mom do these things and behaviors, and I understood in this like flash of clarity, painful, painful clarity, that she is managing incredible amounts of trauma. She is regulating on a dysregulated system. And I learned to regulate on that system. So I had learned to ground on a dysregulated parent. Um, and I saw her dysregulation and volatility and pain as separate from myself in a way that I hadn't quite noticed before. Like I somehow like taken it way more personal than it actually ever was. Um, and then the other thing that happened was that I went to lunch with my friend, and my friend has two kids, and we went on a walk. And what her youngest was a little baby, a little tiny baby who's so cute. And her oldest is like, I think was like, I don't know, 2.5, let's say, at the time. And my friend, I just watched, this is like the most non-event event ever, you guys. My friend was just responding to her kids in the most like secure way. It was so like even, and the kid would be like, "Hey mom, I need blah." And the mom would just be like, "Okay, here." And I feel like I'm laughing because it sounds so simple, but I feel like those of us who grew up with parents who were not doing that, we know how like mind-blowing that can be, where you just watch something so simple and natural happen and you're like, what? And this, I want to be clear, this isn't about like judging my mom or anything. You know, she and I have had a relationship and kind of worked through a lot of stuff. So this really isn't about like blaming her or pointing fingers or whatever, right? It's really claiming like, oh, I learned to regulate on her dysregulated system, which meant that I wasn't ever regulated. Okay, so now I want to go through just a little brief history about myself and where I come from. I'm the oldest of four kids. Um, my family on both sides is m many, if not most, people are alcoholics, and I mean like amazing alcoholics, highly functional. You would never know that they're drunk. They don't slur. They don't get. Um, I mean, there's really big problems that come with that, but you wouldn't be able to look at them and immediately detect that they were, 15 drinks in, which was common. Um, and people either were highly functioning, and then also a lot of people died. A lot of people have died in my family from alcohol-related accidents. I already talked a little bit about my mom and her volatility. Um, I labeled this before I had the language for it. I labeled this as which growing up with which way is up. Like I never knew which way was up. Um, and then when I was 18, I moved in with my dad. I moved out of my mom's house very dramatically, in with my dad, who lived with his parents, my grandparents. And about a month into me living with him, and we were planning to get an apartment together, but about a month in, I waited up for him the night that he died drunk driving. That experience was like waking up the next day in an upside down world, in a world that like the that world that I knew the day before didn't exist anymore, and I was in a different world. And it was very disorienting and also tragic. I then moved in with friends a few months later, and I patched together this adult life. I dropped out of college when my dad's after my dad's accident. And I patched together this whole adult life that was like by the seat of my pants. Like I had no skills, no skills. And I just made it up. And I made it up pretty well. I did pretty well. But I was always taking, it was easier for me to take jobs that I didn't really care about, like super super menial jobs that I could just walk away from. And I'm not criticizing like hard work or repetitive things. Like in a way I actually kind of prefer that to like an office job or doing something on a computer that I can never get my brain around. Like I've always really enjoyed a physical job. So I'm not like there's not judgment in me taking kind of more where I was just a worker bee jobs. Okay, in my younger years, I could not state my likes, my desires, my opinions, my needs, my wants. I could not, I couldn't like if someone would be like, "Oh, well, how do you want to be touched?" I would just like I would freeze up. I'd be like, "I don't know, whatever." Like I couldn't state it. And so it took me a long time. People that know me now, and even the self that I know myself as now, I'm like, oh my God, I'm so opinionated. I'm so opinionated. I have so much to say about so many things. And uh yeah, it was wild to um discover myself as opinionated and headstrong because that was not a version of me that I always was. Let's see. Oh, I've basically been bi my whole life. I used to identify as bi, and I've dated both men and women pretty much my whole dating life. And now, um, now I lean pretty heavily sapphic, which means that the person that I am going to be having sex with probably has a vulva. So those exceptions for me, but that's the general way that it goes. And generally that's a T for T kind of situation of when I'm dating people. Oh, and the last thing historically that I want to go over in my life is at 21 I got my first soul retrieval, and that just so gently shifted the whole path of my life. Like it was so gentle. It was this very gentle turn towards things that were really beneficial for me. That included bringing back soul parts. That included power retrievals, like helping spirits and elements and deities that were beneficial for me to be working with. And then the shaman told me honey, you are going to go home right now, right from this event, and you are going to put up an altar and you are going to tend that altar. And I have ever since. So I have already, I had a spiritual base already established that was my own spiritual practices. I also grew up really religious, but that didn't resonate with me very much. Again, another topic, but like just to kind of lay that um, groundwork. All right, now I'm going to talk about attachment theory. And I know that attachment theory is not this like end all be all state of perfection and um, that there are problems with it. And I feel like I know, I feel like people are in two camps with attachment theory. People that I've talked to, they're either like, wow, so helpful, or they're like, ah, attachment theory is so colonizery. It's so, it's just, yeah. I feel like attachment theory has been so beneficial for me. It's been such a good starting point because I wouldn't have been able to go from where I was to where I am now without naming my own fearful attachment. So I'm not saying attachment theory is perfect. I'm not saying that it's um, some kind of end all be all. I am saying it's a really nice place to start. And then, as we evolve, then we can start to like move things and shift them around and edit and change. All right. So, what dismiss what disorganized attachment? So fearful avoidance and disorganized attachment are the same. And the way I always described that was like being in a washing machine. So I tried to read Attached. I don't know when. In the before times, before the pandemic, I tried to read Attached and I was like, oh, anxious. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Oh, avoidant. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Secure. I knew I was not securely attached. I didn't have to bother thinking about that one. They got to disorganized, and I practically had a panic attack, and I was filled with shame, and I found it so triggering because it so accurately described my experience, which I had labeled as just being in a washing machine, like the washing machine style attachment, which way is up, like I said earlier. I'm laughing about it now because I'm far enough away from it, but it was one of the things that I think I read attached and polysecure, and I couldn't get through either of them because I found the information so triggering and I couldn't like I couldn't take it in a way that was actually beneficial for me and not just filling me with shame. Um, okay, so now though, in this journey, there are really excellent resources on YouTube that have totally shifted how I'm able to digest disorganized or fearful avoidance. And those are the following channels. Connor Beaton's Man Talks. I'm not I'm not exactly his demographic, but he has two videos. I think they're longer. I think one of them is called Disorganized Attachment something something, and one of them is called Fearful Avoidance something something something. I'll link his stuff below. He talks about it in this way that describes how that attachment style gets formed and how we can start to work with it and what to do. And I think those two videos were two of the things that helped me start to be able to pull myself out of the shame spiral of having disorganized attachment. Okay, Connor Beaton. Um, Thais Gibson's channel is also excellent. She does all attachment theory stuff. And then my two go-to channels for like everything, like the two that have been wells of great information for me are Heidi Prieb's channel. Heidi is exquisite in her descriptions, in her how she lays things out, in the subject matters. Like she deals with things that aren't generally talked about by other people. And at least for me, it's like exactly the information that I need to hear. And then the crappy childhood fairy, who, oh man, Anna Runkle, and not just her YouTube channel, Crappy Childhood Fairy, but also uh her two books, Re-Regulated and Connectability. Oh my God, amazing. She's so amazing. Um, and so Heidi Prieb's channel and the Crappy Childhood Fairy have been these resources for me to label clearly and understand where I'm at, and then to also aim for where do I want to go. Okay, so next I'm going to talk about the 4F responses. And the 4F responses are, as we all know, let's say it together: fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. And we tend to have one that we go into more and then secondary ones. So my go-to response is flight. Um, and then my next go-tos are either freeze or fight. And before all of this work, I was basically one interaction away from a full-on 4F response. And I'll go more into that later. I actually don't know how to turn those reactions off. I like the reactions, but sometimes they just happen and, and I didn't actually want them to happen. Okay, so claiming CPTSD, as I mentioned, has also been really beneficial. And the following are not like every single CPTSD symptom. It's the ones that I found really helpful. So I'm not saying that this is a complete list or, like I'm probably leaving things out that didn't like click or that weren't the most resonant for me. So this is not a comprehensive list. So these symptoms are what our nervous systems do to survive trauma. So they are a management, they're really good coping mechanisms, and they help us survive. And isn't that great that we are so adaptive? Um, the first one is an emotional flashback, and this is these were usually formed. So let me back up. We can hit an emotional flashback out of the blue. They're like other flashbacks, except that there's no source. So they seemingly come out of nowhere, and all of a sudden we are in a panic, or all of a sudden we are in a flight response, or fill in the blank, for however they show up for you. There's no memory attached to them. Like we can just be like, why am I having such a whack day? Like what is going on? And it can be that our system is actually in an emotional flashback. I actually have several friends who wake up. They have reported to me that they wake up in emotional flashbacks. And I personally, I don't have that. Mine are more interaction with people based, but it's actually really common for people to wake up in the morning, to wake up and have an emotional flashback experience. Abandonment melange. Abandonment melange is the mixture of all of these. It's an ambrosia salad of pain and awfulness. So it is shame, fear, grief, and rage all packaged together that comes over us suddenly. And it happens in certain circumstances, and we're instantly in a state of emotional flashback. And this is really common for those of us with CPTSD. We can become disoriented, we can become dysregulated, however our system tends to do that. And we're just like off the cliff of our into our whatever 4F response is our go-to. Crap fitting. Here's the next term. This is like my favorite term. Crap fitting means bending and contorting yourself to survive a crap situation. So when we're kids, we're little. We can't reach the cupboards. We don't have agency in a lot of ways. And so we learn to bend and contort ourselves and make crappy situations work for us. And hallelujah, because we survived. But in our adult life, we don't have to do that anymore. So that's crap fitting. Black and white thinking. It's exactly how it sounds. It's either this or it's that. Learned helplessness. Expecting others and the world to do the things for us that are actually ours to do. Eternity thinking. Eternity thinking has been one of I didn't even know, you guys, I didn't even know that this was a thing that was, oh my God. Okay, eternity thinking is when we, to survive a circumstance, we go, it's always going to be like this. My life sucks right now, and it's always going to be like this. I'm a crappy person, and I've always been a crappy person, and I'm always gonna be. It's like that. It's this like shooting off into eternity with whatever circumstance, belief about ourselves. And it's a way for us to like buckle down and survive a situation. I'm gonna check my light here. Yes. Okay, so I'm gonna let you breathe and feel into this, and I let all that information settle, and I am gonna change one of my little lights. Ugh. Okay, so I hope that you took a couple breaths because we have so much more information still to get through. Our next coping strategy is magical thinking. Oh, this favored one of the New Age beliefs. Magical thinking is assigning a magical reason to why something is happening. So it's like, yeah, and it's cousin spiritual bypassing. which I'm going to get into a little bit more of how I was doing that in a little bit. Spiritual bypassing is assigning spiritual truths to avoid being accountable and facing the unresolved emotions or trauma at hand. So instead of going, oh, this this is a trauma response, it's going like, oh, there's a spiritual reason why all this is happening to me. You can you tell that I have some feelings and opinions about this? The inner critic and the outer critic are next. And you guys, this is another one next to the eternity thinking that is mind blowing to me. When I figured out that the inner critic is the voice in your head that tells you that you are a piece of crap and that the reason all of this is happening to you is because you are a piece of crap. So it's this like inward moving shame, um, low self-esteem, although I don't, this not, it's not low self-esteem, but it's this like turning inwards, shame spiraling, eating away at our own self. And then the outer critic is the exact opposite. It's the voice inside your head that goes, it's not me, it's those stupid, nasty, dumb idiots out there. It's everybody else. It's not me. Both of those keep us out of the moment, the present moment, and they're both symptoms of a dysregulated system. The next one is limerence. This can be an intense obsessive rumination. This is basically fantasy thinking about a person. Uh, and it can be a person that we're with or a person that we can never have. Fantasy thinking. So this is this is like being in fantasy of like someday I will be this person over here. And but it's not goal setting. It's not manifestation. It's to get out of current reality, not like if a fantasy thought, if something is actually a manifestation thought, like I don't know, like I want to be a day trader. I'm just thinking of like a random example. I want to be a day trader. And if it's a fantasy, then I might have thoughts like one day when I'm a successful day trader, I will have all the money in the world and my problems will be solved. There's no legs to that fantasy. Like it doesn't have any and I'm not taking steps to actually become a day trader. So if I was actually taking steps, if I was like, okay, you know what? I think day trading might be a thing that I could actually do. I would be taking steps, I would be taking classes, I would be moving myself in a direction towards actually becoming proficient at day trading. Just, I hope that's a helpful example. Um, the next thing is a sense of urgency. So, a sense of urgency, like I must do this thing right now, and it must happen right now. Um, what I have done to combat this is I slow everything way down. And unless something is truly an emergency, that's what blood, fire, bones poking out of skin, unless that is happening, then it can wait. It doesn't need to be responded to out of a sense of urgency that my nervous system is kicking up in the moment. Okay. And then the last one is the red flag and green flag detectors. So in the 5-year program that I'm in, one of the things that we talk about is our red flags and our green flags. And I know this is a term, this is like where the two, like psychology and the shamanic practice, this is kind of where they start to combine and meld with each other and like borrow a little bit in these teachings. And you guys, I could not, like, I had it explained to me 6,500 times what a green flag and a red flag were. And I could not get my brain. Like, I was like, what are they? What? I have found out since that in order to survive, some of us, we have to let go. We have to negate our own body's green and red flag detector. So we have to go, okay, yes, that's a green flag for me, except it doesn't matter because me knowing that green flag isn't going to help me get through this situation. In fact, what's going to help me get through this situation is negating that green flag or negating that red flag. Okay, I am actually, I'm going to go through one more section and then I'm going to make a part two because this is already like 45 minutes long. So my last section of this video is the things that I started doing to rebuild my nervous system. So I realized all these things and I was like, "Oh my God, this I set myself a goal for last year to become securely attached to myself." And I did anything and everything that I could to start to build that trust and security with myself. All right. So here are the things that happened that I did to start to build secure attachment. So I started habit stacking and I started being really intentional about this. I had had a practice like since I was basically 21. Um, but I started looking at these things as a way, I wrote them down. I wrote a list of like 5 things. And I started looking at them as a way to know to myself, to reflect to myself what I was doing that was secure attachment. So, habit stack. My list was like wake up, make a cup of tea, open my ancestor shrine, open my elemental shrines, um, do the daily practice, which I'll talk about in a minute. Uh, write. I'm one of the things I do is I'm a writer. So I sit down and I write every morning. And that was my habit stack. Sometimes that's also like qigong or some kind of physical energetic practice. Um I started doing the crappy childhood fairies daily practice and I can't say enough good things about this. I'm going to go into this a little bit, but she actually teaches people for free. And she has an entire little training on that. So I'm not trying to duplicate her training. I just did that. And it's maybe the most impactful and beneficial practice that I've ever done. All right. So the daily practice is done twice a day. And here is what you do twice a day. You write down your fears. You get a piece of paper, you don't put it on your computer. You get a piece of paper and you write down your fears and your resentments, and you do it in a very formulaic and specific way because it trains the mind and it's connecting the mind in this certain way that is helping us process through all the things that I was mentioning above, the eternity thinking, the magical thinking, the fantasy, like all of that. So you write your fears. I have fear that X, and you keep going. You do this for like 15 minutes. If you have resentment, this is anger, and this is the formula. I resent so and so because I have fear, blah, 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 blah. And you don't change it. I've talked to so many people. I don't ever shut up about this practice. And I've talked to so many people that are like, I invented this new, I did it like this, and it's great. Mm-mm, we're not doing that. We are not reinventing the wheel here. We are just doing the practice. After however long, after a page, or I use a half page, that's about 15 minutes for me, then you release it and you write the release statement. It's a very specific statement. And that statement is, I am now ready and hereby release these fears and resentments. In exchange, this is what I do. I shifted just slightly from what she does, but Anna, the crappy childhood fairy, has three different versions: agnostic, spiritual, and I think a 12-step version. So you kind of pick which one resonates with you. So I hereby release these fears and resentments. In exchange, I seek now a clear vision for my day. And this the focus, inner calm, and power. What is it? Oh my gosh, right now I'm like forgetting it. I always write it, I don't say it out loud. Uh, the focus, inner calm, and vision I need to do it well. There we go. And then you say thank you, and then you sign your name. And then you tear that piece of paper up. This is not a journal. You are not going back. You are not, this isn't like the delicious things from the ethers. This is a way to manage trauma in our bodies. So, we're constantly in this like hyper vigilant or state of trauma, right? Of dysregulation. And our system is like, is this a thing? Is this a thing? Is this a thing? Is da, 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 da. And it creates all this static. This is clearing that static. We don't have to examine the static. We just have to get the leaves off the windshield so that we can drive down the road and do our day. After that, we sit and we meditate. And this is based off of the transcendental meditation practice, which is a mantra-based meditation. My in-laws my former in-laws, sorry, are uh, transcendental meditation folks. So I happen to know a little bit about this form of meditation. It's excellent. And you can use any word. So this is where it veers a little bit from TM, but you're going to use any word, anything that doesn't spark emotion or thoughts. So you can use the word release. That's what I use. You could use the word this. You can use whatever word doesn't kick up a lot of thoughts and emotions, and you just repeat that for 10 to 20 minutes. So you do that whole process twice a day, and it's incredible. It's completely wild. When I first started doing it, I could feel my brain processing. I could feel in my brain, they say that you can't feel your brain. I could feel my brain doing a thing. I could feel the process happening and shifting. The first couple weeks, I would say, particularly the first week that I did it, my meditation, my fears and resentments were super intense, and my meditation was tears and release. It was like a grief ritual twice a day. And then you process through it, and now it's like calm and even keeled, even and still and calm. I was going to say something about the mind, about the nature of the mind. My yoga and Samkhya philosopher self was going to come in and talk about that, but I'm not going to do that. Um, okay. In addition to the DP, the daily practice, I started asking myself, this is like a total reorientation, right? I started asking myself if this was, you know, 5% better in my life, would that make a difference in my life? If this was 10% better in my life, would that make a difference? If this was 50% better. So all of those things, 5, 10, 50, all of those are Fs in our current school system, right? Like if you had a 5%, it's like you failed. Except that when I applied that question to the things that I was doing, the answer was always a resounding hell yes, that would make a difference. 5% would make a huge difference. Okay. I write sometimes if I don't have fears and resentments, which it doesn't really happen, but there are times where I'm like, oh, this isn't quite the thing that I need this morning. I will write a letter to my current self from my future self. And this is the self that is in my life. I don't know when in the future they are. They're in my life and they have overcome whatever the thing is that I need to overcome. I will write myself a love letter to myself from my future self. And that's amazing. I got that practice from Tara Brach, and it's totally dope. I highly recommend. I don't rip those up and throw them away. I actually keep them and then I refer back to them when I need a little pep talk. Um, okay. Every night before I go to bed, I write 10 things. I have a list, I have a notebook, and my list is just like tiny. It's like short. So it's like a page, and I cut it in half and I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and I write 10 things that went well today. And it's anything. It's like I did the DP once. I did the DP twice. I tended my shrines. I took my dog for a walk. I not only did the laundry, but I folded the laundry, girl. Oh my God. I got that laundry folded. It's anything at all. Often, if I'm talking with friends or voice memoing, I have a lot of friends who don't live in my vicinity. They're like out. That will make my list. And it's it makes my heart so full that my connection with others, even if we're just sending voice memos back and forth, that is um it's a great thing in my day that I reflect back on at night. This practice at night has been one of the things that has sort of very steadily built my sense of trust in myself. It's very cool. Really, really cool practice. Um, Almost every day, I do some kind of physical energetic management practice, which I'm going to talk about why in the next section. But can include, it doesn't include each of these, but it can include some or combination or just one someday. And that's like Qigong, yoga, pranayama, chanting mantra japa, masturbation, shaking or whining or twerking, writing, lifting weights, and walking. And for me, a super long walk in it's a specific kind of walk that for me, walking in a straight line for like 2 hours is one of my heart remedies. It's one of, and I'll talk about I'll mention the heart work in the next video. It's one of the um things that will bring my system back. Like if I hit a flight response and I'm like, oh my God, like, and I can't like DP my way out of it, or it needs to be like more physical than me just doing like silent still practices. A long walk in a straight line is magical. I also did this. I was a foster parent years ago, and I did this with my foster kid. I just took her on a walk and we just walked. I just walked out all of her energy, basically. But what happened is that it was the first night that she slept at our house through the whole night. Like she fell asleep and she stayed asleep. And then her little brilliant system knew that that was medicine for her. And she was like, I want to go on a walk. Like that was one of her remedies. It was amazing. All right. Sense of urgency. I said this before, but I'm going to say it again in this section. I slowed everything down and refused to act out of the intensity of emergency. I now give things a day or two. I go, okay, that information is coming in. And often the way this happens for me is it comes in and I go, I don't care about that. And then And then it starts to it gets all crunchy and I start to chew on it and then I get like indignant about it. And then, okay, so if I'm responding in that window of when I feel nothing, and then when I'm in this like, how dare they respond like this to me? That all any of that response is not going to be good. I'm not in an executive functioning state. I will sit on it for a day or two. I might write an email and I might write a response, but I don't send it. I'll wait a day or two. And if it's something urgent, I'll say like, "Hi, I need to get to this and I will get to this, but give me, X amount of time." Just so that I'm not like leaving somebody hanging if it is actually something I need to respond to. And then I'll revisit it. And the answer, I'll tell you, is always different. The way I respond is 100% of the time different than how I was going to in in the state of not being able to feel anything or only feeling big feelings. Um, okay. So these next things are, um, I don't know, they're like very physical things that help me. And one is saging off regularly. You don't have to use white sage. You can use something else like cedar or any whatever yummy smelling herb or wood or branch that grows in your area. So you do not have to be using white sage. You can use something else. I do that anytime I'm out in public and I come home. Well, I try to be really good about this. So I just sage off and I let it go. That's been really helpful for energy body management. Um, I have discovered that for me, the smell of incense and the waft of particularly Nag Champa incense is exceptionally grounding. It brings me back into my current time self, and it's really cool. And like it was something that I did all the time anyway, and I don't know it like I started noticing that I would come home, I would sage off, and then I would light incense, and then I would just be like, oh, like I could feel my system doing a thing, doing a good positive response to doing those two things. Washing my face is a super nervous system regulating action for me. I love it. I love washing my face. Um, and then I'm now doing some self-forgiveness work, kind of as a next step. Now I'm mostly in a regulated system most of the time, and I'm now engaging some self-forgiveness work. This is, among other things, the forgiveness prayer, and you can look that up online. It's like beautiful and just really helpful for moving any energy and like anything that's ready to be forgiven of self and others is moved through in that prayer. All right. So that is the first half of my um of this project. I am going to make another video of the second half, and that second half is going to include um the changes that I've noticed, how my shamanic work and the cycle work, um, and the nervous system work connect. And in that shamanic work, we have a process called energy body clearing. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the process of clearing what we call stones, also known as triggers, how that connects with the nervous system work, and kind of the different, they're not opposed to each other. They're more like this kind of intertwined braid or something, or like a, I don't know. They're in relationship with each other. Um, and then kind of the difference in my personal clearing practice, the difference that had to like what shifted and how it shifted and what I had to do doing the nervous system work. Like basically was I just trying to clear things that I was calling stones, but it was actually dysregulation. And so it was like a surface clearing. It wasn't like getting to the root of the thing. So I'm going to talk about that. Um, and also like why it's important for us to be the current self. Like why this has been the work of my fifth year in this 5-year program. Oh, thank you so much for watching. I hope that this has been illuminating, helpful, useful. I hope that this has been educational for you. Thank you so much for sticking with me. Cheers. I have to go to dance rehearsal now. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video. I'm trying to grow this channel, and I would I would be so appreciative if you like, subscribe, and share and help this channel grow. So thank you for doing that. And also, if you engage in this in the comments in some way and let me know if this is helpful to you, and what else you would like to hear, because I'm happy. This has been like my main obsession, no, my main focus over the past year. And yeah, so I feel like I can do some really good pontification about these topics. So let me know. All right. Thanks so much. I'll see you next time.